under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The prayer this evening will be offered by the good gentleman from Cecil County.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for a second bite at the apple here. If we could all bow our heads. Thank you. We pray tonight for the power to be gentle, the strength to be forgiving, the patience to be understanding, and the endurance to accept the consequences of holding on to what we believe to be right. May we put our trust in the power of good to overcome evil and the power of love to overcome hatred. We pray for the vision to see and the faith to believe in a world emancipated from violence, a new world where fear shall no longer lead men or women to commit injustice, nor selfishness make them bring suffering to others. Help us to devote our whole life and thought and energy to the task of making peace, praying always for the inspiration and the power to fulfill the destiny for which we and all men and women were created. Amen.
Amen. Quorum call.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their presence? If so, the clerk will take the call. I have to put my own. Can you do that? Okay. There being 118 members present, the House is now in session. The clerk will read the journal from the previous day.
Annapolis, Maryland, March the 5th, 2022.
Recognizing the Deputy Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So much be considered the reading of the journal.
So order, petition, memorials, and other papers. Report of the Committee on Judiciary, report number 10. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 639, Family Law, Grounds for Divorce, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk will read next bill.
House Bill 990, Estates and Trusts, Guardianship of the Property of Disabled Persons, Court-Appointed Attorneys, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Report of the Committee on Judiciary, report number 11. Clerk, read the first bill.
House Bill 205, Clerks of the Circuit Courts, Bonds, Licenses, Oaths, and Commissions, favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much be considered the reading of the amendment.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 strikes the changes in sections 2-211 and 2-212 of the bill. Move the amendment, Madam Speaker.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendments have been adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk will read next bill.
House Bill 441, Criminal Procedure, Pretrial Release of Defendant. Notice, favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing Chairman of the Committee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much be the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 applies the bill to all defendants in Baltimore City and requires the Department of Public Safety and Correctional Services to notify the Baltimore Police Department when a defendant is released before trial. Move the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendments have been adopted. Question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 877, juveniles charged as adults, confinement. Favor the amendments. Amendment number 1.
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the committee chair.
Move so much be the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 provides that compliance with the provisions in the bill that prohibit a child from having sight or sound contact with adult inmates may not be achieved through the use of seclusion or isolation. Amendment number 3 gives Baltimore City until October 1st, 2022 to be in compliance with the provisions of the bill. Move the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendments have been adopted. Question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Special order calendar number 30. Clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 920, correctional services, medical parole, life imprisonment. Favorable report adopted.
Recognizing the gentleman from Frederick.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I have an amendment at the desk. The amendment number is 403526.
Amendment number 1.
Move so much be considered the reading of the amendment.
So ordered.
Okay, so this amendment on 920, it repeals the provision allowing victim notification and opportunity to be heard in medical parole cases to be waived in certain circumstances by the parole board, and I'll explain. So currently, in the case of a medical parole, there's a parole commission. They can vote to have someone paroled, but they also have the ability to waive victim notification, even in cases of very egregious crimes, such as first-degree murder, for example. But what we currently have in place is the governor still has the ability to veto that decision. Specifically, if the victim's family, let's say, were to reach out to the governor and say, the parole commission made a mistake, please reconsider. So my concern is that if you remove the last guardrail in the process, which is the governor, and the parole commission does not notify the victim, then that's very concerning. And so what this amendment does is it says if you remove the governor, you must notify the victims, even in cases of medical parole. With that, Madam Speaker, I move the amendment.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Body, I urge you to reject the amendment because in the bill, which is already standard language, the waiver only kicks in cases of imminent death, and the notification to victims and opportunity to be heard remains. So the commission is appointed by the governor with the Senate advice and consent, and therefore the governor has made the appointment to the commission, given the discretion to the commission, and House Bill 920 merely codifies removing the governor as a final step in the medical parole decision-making process. And members, you may recall in our special session, we removed the governor in the decision-making process for all other matters of parole. So I respectfully thank the gentleman for providing a copy of the amendment in advance, and I ask you to reject the amendment.
Recognizing the gentleman from Frederick.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And this is the last thing I'm going to say about it is just put yourself in the shoes of the victim's family. So this is the family of a victim that may have been murdered in our state, and they don't even have, I should say, they weren't even given the decency of notification, even if the person that was convicted has a medical issue and there's imminent death. Put yourself in the shoes of the victim's family. They deserve notification. That's the least we can do if we remove the governor and the final guardrail in this process. If we remove that person, whomever it may be next year, from the process, the least we can do is notify the victims. It doesn't change the outcome, it just, at least we can do is notify them. With that, Madam Speaker, I move the amendment. Thank you.
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing gentleman from St. Mary's.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Can the floor leader please rise?
Floor leader.
Hi.
You said something that caught my ear earlier. It said within imminent death. Is
Yes.
that how the bill's written?
Yes, in cases of imminent death.
Would I don't know, attracting something like COVID be imminent death?
Well, it depends. If the person has been diagnosed, they're going to die soon, then yes, I suppose it would be.
Do you have an example of a case where this has been used?
I don't have an example before me, but there's much case law that would provide examples.
Well, thank you. I appreciate your questions.
welcome.
Madam Speaker, this is a good amendment. I believe that we should be notifying the victims. I mean, that seems like a common sense deal before we release somebody on parole. And there have been numerous instances where experts have been wrong, and letting somebody out that served life imprisonment, which would have been a particular heinous crime, I can believe, without really certification of that, I believe that's wrong. So I stand to support the gentleman's amendment from Frederick. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Gentleman's pressing this amendment.
Yes, ma'am.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed?
Roll call.
Roll call, Madam
Roll call.
Madam Speaker.
Clerk will call the roll. The amendment fails. Recognizing the gentleman from, recognizing the minority leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I also have an amendment at the desk, Amendment 423727/1.
Amendment number 1.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. What this amendment moves so much be considered the reading of the amendment.
So ordered.
What this amendment does is it excludes those individuals convicted in the future, and I'll explain briefly why it has to only be in the future, of first-degree murder from this early release provision. First-degree murder. First-degree murder is the most heinous act, I believe, frankly, along with first-degree rape, potentially. But first-degree murder is the most heinous act that a Maryland individual, that any individual, can commit upon someone else. It takes away willfully, intentionally, wantonly, maliciously, everything you ever were, everything you ever have, and everything you could ever be. From that and your family, it takes it away. First-degree murder. And I'm sorry if that individual who committed first-degree murder gets sick. I am not a higher power. Some of us believe in a higher power, some of us don't, as is your right. I don't get to make those moral judgments, as I've said many times. I'm sorry if you get sick. I'm sorry if your disease is debilitating. The actual language of the medical release statute in Maryland, which this is just taking the governor out, but the actual statute says if you're suffering from a medical or mental condition or disease, and there's a couple other superfluous words in there, that they determine as a result of that disease you pose no danger to public safety. I got to ask you, isn't that the goal of parole to begin with? Parole is supposed to make a decision for everyone. We don't parole you unless we've determined that you no longer pose a danger to public safety. So what in the world is this? We're letting you out on a medical because we think you're sick, and only because you're sick you pose no danger to public safety. Well, what if you get better? Well, we don't have any provision for that. We don't have any safeguard for that. Some doctor, somebody thought I was going to die, but lo and behold, by the power of modern medicine or the grace of God, I didn't die. Do we put him back in jail? Nope. Nope, don't put him back in jail. So this amendment simply says this, and I was told certainly by the folks with our bill drafting
who are better legislative lawyers than what I am. They understand the intricacies of it, that we can't amend it for people who are already in jail for first-degree murder. But going forward from this date, they've got an accrued interest, which seems crazy to me. They have an accrued interest in being released early on a medical, first-degree murderers. But going forward, from this year going forward, we will prevent that. We will say if you have first-degree murder, the law of the state of Maryland now says you're not eligible for parole, I believe, until you've served at least 25 years of your sentence, and you can't change that on a medical. You can't kill somebody at 40 or 45 or 50 years old, first-degree murder, get convicted, plead guilty, first-degree murder. And hey, 5 years later, 8 years later, 10 years later, I'm sick. I don't think I pose a danger anymore. Let me out. There has to be some barrier. There has to be some prohibition against the worst of the worst committing the worst of the worst offenses. And I will tell you that I'm not the only person making this argument. I did a little bit of research over the weekend. You'll find it hard to believe in the state of Massachusetts, which is not a conservative state by any stretch of the imagination, 21 first-degree murderers in 2021, the year 2021, set free under state's new compassionate release law. 21. And who put in a bill and is pushing a bill to try to stop that for first-degree murderers? A Democratic representative in the state of Massachusetts is basically putting in a same or similar bill as to what my amendment is. You cannot provide this type of early release to people who've done the worst of the worst. I urge the body to consider and hopefully adopt their amendment. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Floor Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm just now getting this amendment, but that's fine because I believe in this bill. And the point of this bill is for those individuals who have been tried, okay? The facts have been presented, the evidence has been presented, and they have been sentenced by a judge to life with the possibility of parole. Medical parole is a very high standard. It states that it is a person who is incapable of presenting a danger to society. I urge you to, members of the House of Delegates, I urge you to resist this amendment because one thing that I heard was that the person has pled guilty. Well, it doesn't always apply to individuals who have pled guilty, but it always applies to individuals who have been sentenced to life with the possibility of parole. And only in certain circumstances, on decision made by the commissioners, is someone granted a medical parole. So I urge you to resist the amendment. Madam Speaker.
Maker of the amendment.
I'll defer to my colleague from Baltimore City who may have risen before me.
Okay. Gentlelady from Baltimore City.
I stand today in support of this amendment. Not everyone the number 238 may not mean anything to you, but understand that victims matter in these decisions that you're making. I sit here every day and I hear these types of bills. I'm a victim. My son died 2017. This amendment will help not let the person who does have a heart problem out of jail. The person who killed my son has a problem with his heart, but he also had that problem with his heart when he killed my son. So again, the number 238 may not mean anything to you, but my son was the number 238th person who was killed in year 2017. So not only am I against this bill right here, but I'm also standing in support of the amendment. So understand when you press this button and you don't agree, and you agree to not go with this amendment, understand that you are affecting people like me. My son doesn't have a second chance. He'll never come home. He'll never get to know what it feels like to see his children grow up and graduate. I'll never see my son again. The only time I get to talk to my son is in a dream or standing outside of his tombstone. So understand that we're always standing here making these provisions for those who are incarcerated, who have committed the ultimate crime of taking a life. We're so easy to push a button, but understand how that button feels to people like me. It hurts. Because this is giving a way out for a person to come out of jail who's killed my son, who had an issue before he went to jail with his heart, but that did not matter. He still went out and killed an innocent person who done nothing wrong to him. So I urge the body today to please support the amendment, because people like me, we do matter. We don't die with the victims who actually died. We stay here and we have to live every day with the pain and the hurt of knowing that we are sitting here doing things like this to let people out of jail when they should be staying incarcerated. Yeah, it may be a new life for them, but at least they can still live. People like me, I can't live. I wake up every day with the pain in my heart, deciding if I want to wake up and get out of bed and not commit suicide myself. But I press forward for things like this to make a difference for others who are also feeling the same way I feel. I'm pushing forward for my grandkids, for my other children, and there are other people who cannot stand here on this floor and express their feelings the way I am because they're not in my position. So again, I ask you to please support this amendment. Thank you.
On the amendment.
Madam Speaker, I can never speak more eloquently than that. I press the amendment.
On the amendment, all in favor? The question, the question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Oppose?
Roll call.
Roll call.
Roll call.
Madam Speaker.
Oops. Oh. Clerk will take the call. The amendment passes. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Calendar or third quorum call.
Madam Speaker.
Clerk will take the call. There are 123 members present. The House is still in session. Calendar or third reading, House Bills number 34. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 284, Criminal Procedure, Out-of-Court Statements, Child Victims and Witnesses.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Clerk will take the call. There being 122 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 284, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 296, Temporary Protective Orders, Electronic Filing and Video Conferencing Hearings.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 126 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 296, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 349, Small Claims, Examination in Aid of Enforcement, Prohibition on Arrest or Incarceration for Failure to Appear.
It's on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 101 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 349, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read next bill.
House Bill 576, Wills and Trust Instruments, Electronic Execution.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 126 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 576, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read next bill.
House Bill 692, Carroll County State's Attorney, Restrictions on Practice.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will take the call.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 123 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 692, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read next bill.
House Bill 1323, Victims of Sexual Abuse, Provisions of Services, Technical Correction.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 126 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1323, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed.
Madam Speaker,
Recognizing the majority leader.
I'd like to change my vote on House Bill 920, Amendment 423727/1 to green.
Calendar of third reading House Bills number 35. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 1473, Prince George's County School Board Districts Redistricting Plan.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 126 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1473, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read next bill.
House Joint Resolution 8, Solidarity with the Government and People of Ukraine.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 125 votes in the affirmative, House Joint Resolution 8, having declared the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Recognizing the gentleman and Vice Chair of the Appropriation Committee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to change my vote on House Bill 920. And let me read the amendment slowly. 423727. Amendment 423727 from red to green. Thank you.
Madam Speaker.
Gentleman from Prince George.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. House Bill 920, Amendment number 423727/1 from no to yay.
Recognize the gentlelady from Prince George's.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. On House Bill 920, I would like on Amendment 423727, I would like to change my vote from red to green. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Gentleman from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. On House Bill 920, Amendment 423727 to green.
Gentlelady from Montgomery.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd like to change my vote from red to green on House Bill 920, Amendment 423727/1. Thank you.
Recognizing the other woman from Montgomery.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. Also on House Bill 920, I would like to change my vote from red to green on Amendment 423727. Thank you.
Recognizing the gentlelady from Montgomery.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. On House Bill 920, Amendment number 42377/1, change my vote from red to green. Thank you.
Recognizing the gentlelady from Prince George's.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. On House Bill 920, Amendment 423727/1, red to green.
Recognizing the other woman from Prince George's.
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd like to change my vote, HB 920, the amendment 4233427, from red to green.
Gentlelady from Howard County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd like to change my vote on House Bill 920, Amendment 423727/1, from red to green.
Gentlelady from Baltimore City.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. From red to green on House Bill 920, Amendment 423727. Thank you.
Gentlelady from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. On House Bill 920, Amendment 423727/1, from red to green.
Gentleman from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. On HB 920, on Amendment 423727/1, from red to green. Thank you.
Gentlelady from Frederick.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Same thing, House Bill 920, from red to green on amendment.
Can you put your mic up a little higher, please? Yes, go ahead.
Okay. House Bill 920, Amendment 423727, red to green. Thank you.
Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker.
Gentlelady from Prince George's.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. On House Bill 920, I'd like to change my vote from red to green on amendment number 14.
Gentleman from Montgomery.
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. On House Bill 920, Amendment 423727, from red to green.
Gentleman from Baltimore City.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. On House Bill 920, Amendment, what was that? 423727, red to green.
Gentleman from Anne Arundel.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd like to change my vote on House Bill 920, Amendment 423727/1, red to green. Green to red.
The gentlelady from Montgomery.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. House Bill 920, Amendment 423727-1, from nay to yay.
Okay. See no others. Oh, the gentlelady from Baltimore City.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd like to change my vote on House Bill 920, Amendment 423727-1, to yay.
Madam Speaker.
Gentlelady from Montgomery.
Just a reminder to the body, Madam Speaker, as a parliamentary note, there were a lot of vote changes. You must submit your yellow form. So I just want to remind everyone to submit your yellow form if you made a vote change. Thank you.
Okay. That ends the work at the desk. Committee announcements. Committee announcements, appropriations. Nothing. Judiciary. Environment and Transportation. Ways and Means.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Ways and Means Committee will resume public bill hearings tomorrow at 1 p.m. Please listen up for subcommittee announcements, and we will have a voting session tomorrow.
Economic Matters. Health and Government Operations. Any caucus announcements?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I think our bill hearings are tomorrow at 1:30.
Republican caucus.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Republican caucus will meet tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. in room 145.
Quorum called before adjournment.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their presence? Clerk will take the call. There being 125 members present, the House is still in session. Recognizing the Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that the House stand adjourned until Tuesday, March 15th at 10 a.m., Legislative Day, March 7th.